This is your living room. And so is this. This is season 1 and 2 and 3. This is the big game. This is recording from anywhere. And this is getting caught up. This is Xfinity TV. This is easy. This is simple. This is awesome. Xfinity, the future of awesome.
From Comcast, Marcianne Jenks. And Hill Holliday's Cindy Stockwell.
Well, Marcianne, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
So our section is titled A Peek into the Future of Cable TV. And clearly Comcast is a leader in the distribution in the cable space. Recently, at your most recent investor call, your CEO announced that you were going to complete your acquisition of NBCU significantly early. Yeah. I think that signals probably that you have a plan or you see a benefit to having distribution and content all under one roof. And so how does that position Comcast for the future?
Sure. So thank you, and thanks for having me here today. So, it's interesting. I've been in the media space for, 15 years, and throughout we keep kind of having this dialogue around the importance of content or the importance of distribution and which one's more important, how. And I think the reality is, just as your question referenced, is you need the combination of the two. You see that in the business models for the networks, which are pretty much split down the middle in terms of distribution fees and advertising. And then you also see it in the importance of these aggregators online that drive volume for viewership. What's interesting for us is that we find putting cable and NBCU together actually allows us to do some pretty unique things that might not otherwise be done in the industry. I think about things like TV Everywhere, which I know we'll talk about, and historically, the programmers kind of look at the distributors and back and forth, and there's kind of a zero-sum game that they try to play, and they say, look, if I charge you a little bit more, how are we going to fight for those dollars on the table? And as a result, we sometimes miss the opportunity to create new value, and that's what Brian has asked us to do, to see how we can take content and distribution and figure out ways to build new value for the ecosystem so that we're not fighting for the same dollar that's kind of sitting on the table, but rather trying to create new dollars. And we have a lot of ways that we can do that. One is by creating new experiences for consumers, by essentially diffusing maybe some of the fears that got in the way historically. Mm-hmm. Another is by focusing on doing new things in the advertising space. So as a cable company, we've been investing quite a bit on advertising infrastructure to allow targeting, to allow measurement on different platforms and things that ultimately, I think, are going to drive everything and the whole ecosystem forward. And so that's how we think about it. We like to say we're uniquely positioned to do great things, and I think that's the case.
Well, and the Olympics was a great example of that, right?
Yeah, it was. And it was really interesting. I was using the Olympics just a couple days ago. We had a cable industry discussion where I talked about some of our learnings. And one of them was pointing to the Olympics as proof that a lot of the things that we were afraid of when everyone sat around and dragged their feet on TV Everywhere, were, false fears. It's the way I tell the story is, a lot of networks sit around and say, well, boy, if I make this content available on different platforms, am I going to look dumb because somebody else is going to capture the value, or am I going to cannibalize my linear viewership, and as a result, it's going to ultimately hurt me from an economical perspective. And what we found with the Olympics is that it didn't work at all like that. In fact, what happened is, as I think everybody knows, the Olympics were the most viewed Olympics ever. Yep. So from a linear TV perspective, it was a total success. And then on top of that, we found that all of the online and mobile viewership was complementary and incremental. We have these viewership charts that show how people watched during the day while they were in the office, and then they came back at night and sat in front of the TV prime time. And so as a result, it, I think, emboldened folks. It said, wow, look at us. We can give our customers what they've been asking us for, and it doesn't hurt us. And it kind of sounds silly, right? Because giving your customers what they've been asking you for should be a good thing.
Right.
And it is. But there are all these fears that I think we had to overcome. I think we're in a good place to do it now.
That's great. And then I think the other big thing in the news for Comcast has been the rollout of the X1 platform.
Yeah.
You know, that seems to be a platform that's really tailor-made for today's very distracted, multitasking consumer. What do you see as the benefits to X1 from a Comcast standpoint and then from a viewer standpoint?
Sure. So I think you know, the immediate thing that you see when, and they're going to put some pictures up, so is you'll see a much more beautiful guide, a content discovery platform, almost what you'd expect to find online, except on your TV set. And it's great. As a guide, it's, you know, we see that people who have it, and there's a lot of people who already have it, and we're rolling it out across our whole footprint this year. But what we see is that folks that have it watch a lot more content, find the things that they're looking for more easily, get more value out of their subscription, all the great things that you would expect. What I think, though, is, from my perspective, the thing that gets me most excited is that X1 gives us an IP connection, essentially an internet connection, to every television that we serve. And so it's great in that it allows us to deliver all of these cloud services to the TV. The guide is one example, but as I like to say, if it's the only example, then you know, it's just a new guide. It's not that big of a deal. Where it's more important is that because you have now this IP connection to the TV set, you can introduce almost any new service you want. We've recently launched, you know, a personalized recommendation service so that you show up and your TV recommends to you what you should watch. You can talk to it. You can actually say, you know, I want to watch a show like this, and it pulls it up. It allows us to blend traditional television with what types of experiences you'd have online, like Pandora or Facebook, or different types of web content. And so the thing that excites me the most, and I think is, you know, the greatest thing from a Comcast perspective, is that by establishing this IP connection into the TVs, it opens up a whole new set of services that we never would have been able to offer our customers before.
Does it, from an advertiser's perspective, does it get you a little closer to addressable?
Sure. So we've been doing a lot of work on addressability. We've been, you know, obviously online, like with everybody else, we can do it, and then we can do it on demand, which was kind of last year's focus for us. And then for linear addressability, we've announced already that we're going to be doing a series of trials over the course of this year, where we are, I think, in 4 or 5 of our markets introducing linear addressable capabilities. And this is not just on X1, but it's everywhere. Well, you'll be able to watch a TV show, you're my next door neighbor, you watch a different ad than I do based on some characteristics of your home. The interesting thing about what's taken so long, though, especially in our legacy platform, is that the way cable technology used to work is everything had to sit in that box. And it's not a particularly powerful box, and so we were cramming a lot of things in there. And in order to do addressability, we had to put new software in that box, make it work with everything else that that box was doing. The new X1 service allows us to do everything remotely from the cloud. And so, you know, it does, to your point, make addressability much easier. Now the challenge is, I think by the end of this year, we'll have a couple of million people on the X1 platform, and we'll have 20-some million on the legacy platform. So we still need it to grow, and we're investing heavily as a company. But that's the balance, and that's why we're doing it not just in X1, but also in all of our legacy services as well.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about TV Everywhere.
Yeah.
So you made some kind of baby steps in with some of your services, I think Stream Picks and there's one other one.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot that needs to happen from a content and partnership perspective in order for TV Everywhere to really be a reality. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, until this year, I don't know that TV Everywhere existed or that it really could exist.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that we didn't, and most distributors didn't have good deals with the various networks in order to make the content available to our subscribers. Over the course of the last maybe 18 months or so, we have closed some pretty watershed deals with the Walt Disney Company and ESPN. Earlier this year, we announced something with Fox. We've done something with Scripps and A&E. We had kind of the initial deal done with Turner. And so now, across the board, I think with all of the networks, we've managed to get good deals in place to make TV Everywhere available to our customers. And that really had to be the starting point, because as I like to say, part of my job is to market TV Everywhere to our subscribers. And until probably this year, I could say, hey, go to our TV Everywhere destination, and sometimes you can get some of the content on some of the devices. And it's not a great proposition, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we're in a position now to say you can get pretty much everything you're looking for. And that's really compelling. And so now that it's in place, I think a big challenge is on us now to lower the barriers for consumers to get to that content. We did some of that during the Olympics. You referenced that. Things like auto in-home authentication. We often know who our subscribers are, especially when they're at home behind our modem. And so we make the content available to them without having to sign in for it. I think that lowers the barriers and increases consumption, which is good. We also have to do a lot of raising awareness, and we just launched this great program called the Xfinity Watchathon. It was the biggest television binging event that had ever existed. We did it about 2 weeks ago, and broke all sorts of TV Everywhere consumption records. We basically opened up all of our content. So even if you subscribe to a reasonably small bundle of content, we opened up HBO and Showtime and our service Stream Picks and kind of all of the maybe lower distributed digital channels as well to our subscribers, and banked full current seasons and prior seasons of the content. So you could watch every Game of Thrones ever. You could catch up on last year's season of Mad Men, and for a week, basically told all of our customers as loudly as we could, look at the types of things you can experience. Mm-hmm. And consumption was through the roof. And what was great, and I like to say this about cable companies all the time. People should love cable companies, because we're in this business where our job.
You're not biased, though.
No. No. And for a long time, I hated my cable company. We're in the business of connecting people to the things that they love. Whether it's, you can call your parents on the phone that we provide, or whether you can log on to the internet and chat with your friends, or whether you can see shows like Dallas that you're really passionate about. And so we have this great opportunity to kind of benefit from all of that. But historically, we haven't. What cable companies and other distributors historically have done is they've gotten in the way of those things. And that's been frustrating. And all the benefit we stand to accrue instead turned into this kind of deep-seated hatred about the people that kind of get in the way from my being able to do stuff. I think we have the opportunity to turn that around. I know we're certainly investing a lot in trying to do it, and kind of lowering these barriers to TV Everywhere consumption is a big part of that.
That's great. All right, I'm going to take a Twitter question now.
Yeah.
So there we go. So Steve McVeary asks, how major of an issue is cable cutting? As soon as As soon-to-be graduated undergrad, I'm used to watching most shows online.
Yeah. So it's a good question, and one that we wrestle with quite a bit all the time, and we watch very carefully. And there's a couple ways to answer it. The first is, if you just look at the numbers, pay TV penetration 5 years ago was 90% of kind of households, and today it's about 90% of households. So as a kind of percentage penetration, it's not something that we are really seeing kind of in major ways. But what I do think that we are seeing, and where kind of you see a little bit more maybe risk to the ecosystem, is in two ways. What people are buying now is maybe less than they were buying before. So before, kind of they would come to us for all of their video needs, and now they come to us for a lot of their video needs, and maybe they go and satisfy some of their video needs somewhere else. Yeah. In ways that may or may not be ad supported, in ways that may or may not be measured. And so I think that puts a lot of onus on us to diversify our offerings and to provide video in more flexible ways to our customers. So that's kind of one kind of way to look at it. A second is, I think a lot about this concept of cord nevers, folks who, grew up in their parents' house and then go off to college and, get kind of hobble together their video experience at school, and then suddenly go out and join the workforce and get their own place and have to become a subscriber. And there I do also think that we see kind of a little bit more of a delay as they join our customer ranks. And I think it's because they're used to getting content on their terms. It's, I want to watch this, so I go off and find it and I watch it. And maybe it's on this device or on this screen or in some time-delayed way. And that's, again, I think, puts a lot of onus on us to create these flexible experiences that can satisfy their needs. And we do it all the way going back to universities. We have a big initiative right now where we work with colleges and universities to make our services available over their networks to their students on their devices. So, if you go to Dartmouth, which gets its video services from Comcast, you can watch TV on your laptop, because that's where we believe the students want to watch their TV. We've been running a fairly high-profile trial at MIT for the last 18 months, where anywhere on the MIT campus you can get access to all of our content, whether it's live or on demand, again, on your kind of PCs and laptops. And I think you'll see more of that as we try to cast a broader net and work with.
And so is that even if you're not a personal subscriber, you can do that just by being part of the...
Yeah, in both those cases, the university subscribe to our service on behalf of the students. And so there's different models like that.
That's great. All right, and question from Noah King, if it comes up. Maybe not, so I'll just read it to you. Yeah. So is there an app to partner with platforms like Roku and Apple TV?
Yeah, so there is. The way I like to think about our service is like Amazon's Kindle. Amazon provides through their Kindle service the ability for you to buy books and consume them. And they created their own equivalent of a set-top box, the Kindle device, that you can consume all the Amazon stuff. And we have our new device, which is the X1 that was up there, and that allows you to do it. But at the same time, it's important for Amazon to make the books available wherever else their consumers want to read them. And that might be your iPad, or it might be, some other Samsung device. And we do the same thing. So about a year ago, we launched an Xfinity TV app on an Xbox. And we made all of our on-demand content available there. And it was great for our customers. They love it. They use it quite a bit. And it allowed us to do things that we couldn't do on our own set-top boxes. Our legacy set-top boxes make it hard to find content. The Xbox makes it easy. So we said, let's put our on-demand content on the Xbox and make it easier. And we continue to do that. We're now, I think, on a ton of mobile devices. And I think most recently we announced we're doing a deal with a company called Boxy to get all of our content on their set-top boxes. We obviously work very closely with TiVo. And throughout kind of all of those relationships, we try to find ways to do things for our customers that we can't do on our own stacks. I figure if we do exactly what we do on our own stacks on somebody else's device, there's not a lot of value being delivered there. So we try to say, like, you know, are there things like that these devices allow us to do that allow us to learn and then give our customers something that they couldn't otherwise do?
Yeah, okay. So I think we have time for one more question. So if you were to look 18, 24 months out, what do you see as sort of the most important developments in the cable space that Comcast is sort of getting, you know, in front of now?
Sure. So I think, you know, over the course of the next year or so, you're going to see the living room, the kind of battle for the living room as the center of the home. And not just around kind of video content, but around internet content, time-shifted content, home management type services. And that's really what we've been working on. Comcast is, I think, at the forefront of blurring the lines between what was the internet and what was traditional TV. We're delivering more ways to connect more devices at higher speeds for folks. And we're getting into this whole world of home management where, you know, I can pull up my phone and watch video cameras outside my house and be notified if somebody, you know, comes in, and turn off my lights and kind of play around with my music. And I think increasingly that's what you're going to find. It's what Apple seems to be doing. It's what Amazon seems to be doing. And the real implication for us is the definition of a cable company is changing. We used to be construction companies that literally laid cable underground to people's homes. And I think increasingly we're becoming a software company that's trying to create experiences that will delight our customers.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.